Sound speeds. So let's discuss gear, equipment, and why you want to own your own. So let's just say production approaches you and says, do you have your own gear? Do you want to say, yes, I have my own gear, or say, no, I don't have my own gear? Let me put it to you this way. Let's say you want to add a floor over your garage and put a couple of quotes out there. One guy comes to your house and he says, I'll do it for $10,000. Do you have a ladder though, and saws and a hammer I could use? Because I'll probably need them. But then another guy comes up to you and says, I can add that area right over your garage for $15,000. Oh no, I'm fully insured. I'm my own guy. I have all my own gear. Who are you going to trust more to do the project? Even though they're more expensive, if you were anything like me, you're going to want to hire the pro. And by pro, I mean the guy that has his own gear. Sound in movies is the same way. They have vendors for cameras. They're going to rent their cameras unless they happen to own their own DSLRs and you're working on an indie or something like that. They're going to rent lights and they're going to rent all the other gear. But the sound stuff is a little bit different because you, as the sound mixer, will be supplying that through your company, most likely, to production. Even on the smaller projects like indies, now you may not have your own company at the set it up as a company, but you will definitely be able to rent your production sound audio gear to production. And the rate you choose has got to be a pretty decent one because you want to make sure that not only are you paying for your gear, but if something happens, indies are not really good about replacing really high value gear, and their insurance may or may not cover it. So they may keep you on the back burner and say, yeah, we're going to cover it. Let's just get through the last couple of days of production. Okay. This is a problem. You see where I'm going with this? Because you want to make sure that when you actually rent your gear to production, you're getting paid for it. Now, that's not to say that they don't have insurance and to watch your back because everyone's out to backstab you. That's not the case. I've worked on many productions, even smaller productions, and they take very good care of their people, but it's going to hurt them. It will hurt them. Now, by making sure that you charge up front for your gear, you're also establishing a few things. You're making sure that they understand from a production point of view that your gear has value because it does. You don't want to get into the habit of giving your gear away on this show because once you do a good job, they're going to call you to do the next one. And they're going to say, but last time you charged only $100 for your sound package. And out of that $100, you're also paying for the batteries for your transmitters. If you wire anybody up, you're paying for all your expendables. Okay, let's not even go there just yet. But let me put it to you this way. If you want to do a good job, you can't do a good job off of garbage gear. Now, I'm kind of sidestepping a little bit around where I'm going with this. But you can hopefully you can see where I'm going with this. That if you have charged appropriately for your gear in the past, you'll have a decent amount of money to put back into your gear. So that way it will allow you to do your job well. What does this get you? This helps you avoid having to go to a rental house for production sound gear. Rental houses are there for a purpose. Yes, they can rent you gear, but technical gear can sometimes not be maintained as well as you'd like. Let me ask you this. When you rent something, do you know the exact history of that? No, you don't. And the reason why is because you haven't been there with it the entire time unless you were the person that actually unboxed it. It's a brand new item and you've grown with that item. And that would be your own gear. I don't know how many times I've worked with rented gear that has not worked. You have a transmitter that might have the wire on the inside of the antenna. It might be broken. And therefore, you're not actually getting the proper frequency response out of that transmitter. Let's just say that you have a lav. It could be blown. Somebody could have messed it up, damaged it. You could have had a microphone that you're trying to use for this that was submerged in water and it does not work properly. Anything can happen if it's not your gear. So you want to make sure that you keep your own gear and start renting it to production to pay for it. You don't want to have production rent gear. They're going to try to save a buck and do that. But it's not going to be good. Or let's just say you get lucky and it does work out. It's not helping you any, because you're still going to have another show and you're going to have to start over again with brand new gear you don't know and get familiar with it. Now, how do you start off by actually getting yourself some sound gear? Well, it all starts with buying buying what you can afford to begin with. And very, very easily, you can contact some friends that you may have in the sound world and say, can I borrow some of your gear and I'll split the rental with you if you're not using it. There are people that also will loan it to you, or they'll rent it to you for very dirt cheap. Sound vendors are really good at that. So do a search for sound vendor, sound sales, that kind of thing, and you'll probably find some if you Google it. And make sure that you get yourself some decent gear. And there are many of these sound shops that sell gear that's really, really good, top-notch gear in a used section. Now, you can go to Craigslist or eBay and buy some gear there, but you don't always know what you're getting yourself into, because sometimes it's stolen. Not always, but sometimes it is, because I've known quite a few people that have had their sound packages, their trailers broken into or whatever, and people don't know what in the world to do with it. So they'll sometimes list that stuff on eBay, and it doesn't necessarily work out the way everybody would hope. Because as soon as it's discovered and they say, oh, you bought that? Who'd you buy it from? We're taking this back. This was stolen goods, and you lost it. Now, even if you have to start off by buying something like a Zoom H5, which gets you a few channels of sound to work with there. Even if you start off with a Zoom and you buy yourself a very inexpensive boom and a very inexpensive microphone and very inexpensive cables, you're at least getting yourself going. Now, if you don't have the money for that, chances are what you're going to want to do is not start off as a sound mixer. You're going to probably want to start off as a boom operator and work with a sound mixer, because chances are you don't have the experience just yet. But when you have saved up maybe only $500 or $600 and you can invest in entry-level sound gear, that's not going to buy you wireless transmitters. That's going to buy you maybe a bare bones recorder, a boom, cables, and maybe a sound, a SD card or something to record it on. Start saving up for transmitters at that point. Maybe borrow some of those, rent some of those if you must, but make sure you charge for it, build production for it. And the reason why is because you got to start building up your sound package. That way you can start charging for your sound package. And make sure production has in writing that anything that's damaged is their responsibility. Now, obviously, they're going to say, what if it's wear and tear? Wear and tear does happen. But when an actor is wearing a lavalier microphone and they go and rip it out because they are wanting to get home after a 15-hour day, production's going to say, well, it didn't hold up properly. That's wear and tear. It was certainly tear, but it was damage tear. That's the reason why you have the L&D, lost and damage, form that you can fill out and make production pay for it. Make sure you get that in writing. So, hopefully you'll find that to be some sound advice. Have a question you'd like answered or want to add something? Be sure to write it in the comment section down below. You can also make a suggestion for future topics of discussion. Again, comment section down below, or you can email me at soundspeeds@yahoo.com. Be sure to subscribe and turn on notifications so you won't miss out on future sound advice.